Ryan with Cajun Cardboard here, coming at you from the great state of Louisiana with a quick little video today. Just some random ruminations, thoughts that popped into my head this morning when I strolled into the office to film a couple of other videos. I wanted to talk to you about 3 terms that we often hear in the hobby that I think are sometimes misused. Term number 1, the term super collector. I laugh because you hear that term a lot in this hobby, and I don't think there's as many super collectors out there as many people would lead on to. In other words, I would reserve this term, super collector, right, in quotes, not just collector, not just guy who's got a really nice collection, somebody who's really, really put together a nice, sometimes even a 7-figure collection. To me, that doesn't mean super collector. For super collector, I'm thinking top 1% of the top 1%. I'm thinking 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 type of collection, right? I was one time introduced on another person's show as a Michael Jordan super collector, and I just sort of chuckled under my breath. I have a very nice Michael Jordan collection, but I was sort of laughing because the people that I rub shoulders with on a daily basis make my collection, they dwarf my collection. So for someone to refer to me as a super collector, I do realize it all has to do with perspective. And, and whether somebody's a super collector or not is in the eye of the beholder. But I think that's a term that should mean a little bit more than it does. And so I think the term super collector is kind of thrown around there too loosely. And again, I don't want to say, sound snobby. It's not always about the value, right? There are super collectors out there, collectors out there that PC less popular players who I would consider super collector. Christina Thorson from Card Ladder, I would consider a Maxi Kleber super collector, right? The value of her Maxi Kleber cards probably pales in comparison to one Doncic card that she has in her collection. But I would consider her a Kleber super collector. I've seen Gary Payton super collectors and Sean Kemp super collectors and even Reggie Miller super collectors, whose name may come up later in this video. So I would reserve that term for a more elite club, a more elite faction of the hobby. That's just my perspective. Let me know what you think in the comments about what is and is not a super collector. There's no one definition that permeates throughout the hobby, but let me know what you think a super collector is, if you could define that in one sentence. The second term, and this one really kind of sticks with me, and this is where kind of arguments start, but I'm just going to throw it out there because I've always been really transparent with you guys. The second one is GOAT, or even worse, GOATs, plural. You guys who have watched me and listened to me for 9 months now, or anybody that's ever collected with me or had any type of hobby conversation with me, you guys know that for me in this hobby, all paths lead to Michael Jordan. There is one GOAT, at least in the basketball world from my perspective. And there's one GOAT, maybe arguably in some other sports as well, but we're going to talk just about basketball. MJ's the GOAT, right? That's not a plural term. That's a singular term. It's greatest of all time, singular. I hear people put an S, apostrophe S on the end of it, or an S on the end of it to pluralize it, and that's great. But I make a distinction, and it's okay to use the term GOATs plural to refer to more than one, historic player, a player who was superlative in nature, who did things not many other players have done. But just like super collector is often overused and dummied down, GOATs is maybe the worst of all of the terms that we're going to talk about today that I think has been dummied down, and I think it should mean more than it should. For instance, we start with the GOAT, Michael Jordan, and then argument can be made, Kareem and LeBron. You can't really make an argument for the GOAT with really anybody other than that. I mean, Wilt, Bill Russell, whatever, if you want to go old school and throw them in the mix. But I don't think anybody out there would really truly allege that the singular GOAT could be Magic or Bird or Kobe or anybody like that. The numbers just don't back it up. The accolades don't back it up. The reputation doesn't back it up. The respect from the peers don't back it up. So there's the GOAT singular, and we can have that argument. You guys know where I fit on that. But even if we allow the word GOATs plural to be used in the hobby, which again, I'm not the hobby police, so we know that people are going to say, oh, I just collect the GOATs. Well, the problem is people have expanded the definition of the GOATs plural so broadly that it includes guys like Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller's not a GOAT, people. I understand there are Reggie Miller super collectors out there. Reggie Miller was a very good basketball player. Reggie Miller was not a GOAT. there's this distinction between being a Hall of Famer or even a top 75 player and being a GOAT from my perspective, right? Reggie Miller was 18-3-3. He made, 3 All-Star teams and 3 All-NBA teams. There's a lot of people that have done that. That doesn't make you a GOAT. That just makes you a really good player and a borderline Hall of Famer. Of course, Reggie's in, so we know he's a Hall of Famer. Ray Allen's another example. Not a GOAT. Ray Allen was a really good player. Ray Allen was Bradley Beal with rings. Ray Allen's a great player. There's some really great Ray Allen cards out there because he was in that 90s era. There's some really, I was a humongous Ray Allen fan. He hit one of the biggest shots in the history of the NBA playoffs. So Ray Allen is a surefire Hall of Famer and a great player, but there's something that we've got to draw the line between great player or Hall of Fame player and GOAT. I don't think Ray Allen's GOAT. Chris Bosh is not even a GOAT. Chris Bosh was 19-8-2, right? 19 points a game, 8 boards a game, 2 assists a game, 11 times All-Star. He made almost 4 times as many All-Star teams as Reggie Miller. So if Reggie Miller's a GOAT, then certainly Chris Bosh has to be a GOAT. I don't think either one of them are GOATs. That's just kind of my take on it. I think that we need to make that GOATs category a little bit tighter and make it mean a little bit more. Being top 75 doesn't make you a GOAT. People are confusing Hall of Famers with GOATs. And so if you really mean Hall of Famers, I think people should just say Hall of Famers. That's not a slouch, right? I mean, that's a big deal. And then the last term that I think is oftentimes misused in our hobby is Grails. And so I just think, again, just like Supercollector should mean more, and just like GOAT or GOATs should mean more, and there should be a higher level of accomplishment required to be categorized as a GOAT, Grails needs to be higher, man. We throw that term around a lot. Like I see people pop 165 card that's worth $400, and they say, I got a Doncic Grail, or I got a LeBron Grail. Again, look. This is not a value thing because I understand there are different levels of collections out there. Some people have 8-figure collections that I have met and that I've rubbed shoulders with and that I've actually seen with my own eyes. What's a grail in their collection would mean something drastically different than some of my friends here that collect on a much lower level, right? So I'm not telling each person what is or isn't their grail, but when you put a player's name in front of it, you take it out of that category and then you start talking about that particular player. If somebody says, I picked up a Jordan Grail, well, it really needs to be a Grail for Jordan. It's not. But they can say, I picked up a Grail. And that, $1,400 Jordan card might be the best card in their collection, and that truly might be a Grail for their collection. So I think we should make a distinction there too. But when you put a player's name in front of it, if you picked up a Luka Doncic Silver Prism PSA 10, that's fantastic. But you can't say I picked up a Doncic Grail. That's just my opinion. You can say I picked up my Grail or the Grail of my collection. But when you put the player's name in front of it, it kind of transports it out of your personal collection into that player. And you look at the breadth of the cards available in that particular player. And sometimes it ceases to be a Grail. And anybody who collects Michael Jordan or LeBron James or Kobe or Shaq or guys like that, we know it doesn't necessarily mean value, right? It should mean more than it does. The term is just used too loosely. You got to distinguish between a player's Grail and a particular collector's Grail. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean value. It just means very difficult to ascertain, very difficult to find. Oftentimes that does correlate into the particular card being extremely valuable. But another great example would be if you collected, give me some Brad Daugherty or something like that. Well, that's a bad example. Give me somebody that's late 90s. Let's say you collect, I don't know, not Shaq. Give me another center. Give me somebody from the late 90s that was pretty good. Let's say you are a Amari Stoudemire collector and you pick up on an Amari Stoudemire one-of-one masterpiece from the early 2000s. That may not be a very valuable card, but that can be an Amari Stoudemire Grail. And so there's more to it than just value. So I don't want to come at it from a condescending perspective. It could just mean an extremely, extremely rare card. Maxi Kleber was the great example that we gave in the first part of this video. A black prism one-of-one Maxi Kleber Prism, that's a Grail card. That is a Maxi Kleber Grail, and it could be the Grail of a collector's collection as well. So I just think these three words, super collector, goats, and grail, I think our standards have lessened. I think the hobby's become desensitized to what these three terms could or should mean in the hobby. And I just wanted to revisit that and really just kind of throw this out there and see what you guys think. All of you viewers, and you guys are the hobby, right? We are the hobby. Everybody who's watching this video. And I want to see what you guys think about those three terms, super collector, goats, and grail. And let me know what those three terms mean to you. Am I crazy? Am I just old man, get off my lawn guy because I'm 48 years old? Am I just the get off my lawn dude who's, complaining just to complain? I'm not really complaining, but it's just my perception. It's something I've noticed that these words used to mean more than they do today, and we've kind of expanded the breadth of what the connotation of these three words is in the hobby today. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you guys for watching. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby, and peace.